that has come to me. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. But it comes to the life. Jesus saved me now. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Running fast for the edge of life. Jesus saved me now. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Running fast for the edge of life. Jesus saved me now. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Running fast for the edge of life. Jesus saved me now. Jesus saved me now. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Running fast for the edge of life. Jesus saved me now. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Running fast for the edge of life. Jesus saved me now. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. Happiness comes. That has come to me. Running fast for the edge of life. Jesus saved me now. Running fast for the edge of life. Jesus saved me now. Happiness comes so seldom. That has come to me. It is here in the Father's kingdom. It was there for me. You took me in, and you washed away my sins. You washed away my.
You ready? You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network.
Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, theys, and gays. This is the Real Pineapple. This is your humble host, Hunter, here. Hour break, interview two. Let's go. um, Thank you so much, y'all, for tuning back in. I am stoked about my guest today. You know him as an actor writer for from Rocksteady Row, Dead Dicks, and Trust, which he's amazing in Trust. To quote my letterbox review of it, you just want to give Heston Horwin a big giant hug because he really needs one. Heston Horwin. Heston, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I've been so excited about this since we started emailing, and I'm honored to be here and really appreciate all the support and the shout outs to the other films, and Trust being one of them too. I really super proud of that performance and that project. I think Jen did a wonderful job with it, and excited to be here.
So I am partial to you in that movie because you play a character named Josh. So I was like, I was like, all right, so I already like him. But to talk about Trust a little bit, um, the the way that your character Josh has to portray strength while having this undertone of just frustration in terms of all the family dynamics and all these secrets coming out while trying to deal and trying to deal with his own bullshit while these secrets start to come out. I think the way you play that on the edge, like level of fringe, I think it's so fascinating. Can you kind of talk to me about like the your process in terms of not just reading the script for the first time, but like in terms of like how you approached portraying Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. So playing Josh, it really was a honestly, it was a very personal performance for me, and it felt like at that time when we were shooting Trust, I was kind of having my own internal family issues where there was all kinds of family politics happening and relationships that were strained and some unfortunately that were lost, and it was all happening while I was filming that movie. So honestly, like I said, it was very personal for me, and there wasn't necessarily a whole lot of prep that I needed to do to get inside the mind of that character,
Mm.
because it really, it was a turbulent time in my own family's landscape. So I suppose the silver lining was that I did have Trust and I did have that creative space to be able to pour all of that into it. So I think a lot of the moments for Josh in the film that resonated with you, probably because it was resonating with me just as much.
Did you find portraying him? Did you find it kind of therapeutic? Like as you're like, did it kind of allow you a space to work through some of your own turmoil in real time?
Absolutely. I think I've heard it said a bunch of times from other actors, like acting is not supposed to be therapy. And obviously, I totally agree with that. It can't replace professional help, which I do encourage those listening to seek when you're going through tough,
Ditto.
turbulent times. But in that particular space of time, because it was happening honestly like concurrently with the filming of the production, I didn't really have a whole lot of time to reach out for extra support because I'm doing 12-hour shoot days. So in that way, it was absolutely therapeutic, and I was able to pour a lot of that grief and that experience and that personal journey into the character as we were filming it. So yeah, it did kind of provide a safe space for me to sort of explore some of these more complicated emotions and thoughts and feelings. Definitely.
One of the things that I always find interesting in terms of acting is, and I mean, I would just say as a creative, is how much of yourself you're giving to the space.
Mhm.
Because I do find that obviously you want to give your all, but I do find some of those maybe those more intimate things, maybe you want to hold on to those things for yourself and not give your all to the audience, but still maintain things for yourself. Given what a heavy film that is and the subject matter, how do you kind of find that balance between your performance and what you're kind of keeping to yourself?
Um, Well, I would say that there are personal stories and anecdotes, obviously, that I refrain from sharing in like the workspace, I suppose. But you know, the beautiful thing about shooting a movie is that it's all fictional. So really, it's just a matter of how much of your emotion and soul that you want to expose while you're performing. In general, I'm an open book. I think it's important to be able to talk about these harder discussions, and I think it's important to be you know, destigmatizing certain conversations around mental health and suicide and a lot of the things that that trust the film really centers around. So for me personally, I'm I'm generally prone to letting it rip, and so in that
Fair.
film, like I said, I was really bringing a lot of personal experiences and a lot of personal emotions that I was actively in real time processing, and yeah, just no holds bar. I really kind of just unloaded it all into that performance.
There is a scene, and I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a scene, which, by the way, people trust is streaming on Prime Video.
Yep.
For you literally have no excuse to not fucking watch the movie. Like, please go watch, go watch the goddamn movie if you haven't watched it yet. But there's a scene in particular that I love of yours. It's like right after the will reading, and everyone's kind of in the church, and the one sister is just being like bitchy and gold diggery, and you do so much acting in the film, and this is one of the things that I immediately was just like, I love this performance just on this. There are these points where like I can almost hear the Ben Affleck like depressed meme, because there's so many points where you were just trying so hard to not lose it because everyone else's around you is losing it, so you don't have the luxury to lose your emotions. You have to be the one holding it together. But that's also the pressure that Josh, the character, is putting on himself. And you're seeing all this stuff, like you're reading all these things about you just through your emotion without saying a word. And I was just like honestly in awe at multiple points of your performance, the way you're able to convey so much without saying a word. Were there certain performances, or maybe, like, not to get too personal, but like a memory or anything like that that you're able to use to kind of lock in to get that specific part of your performance down?
Yes, absolutely. Firstly, thank you very much. I really appreciate those words. That means a lot, and I'm really just honestly grateful to Jen Levinston, who wrote me a really phenomenally complicated role. The
Yeah.
character was complicated. I that is what I mean. But she gave me so many different colors to play with. I felt like with this role, where and then also shout out to Alma Gavidan Antonir, the director, as well. They both really crafted such a fascinating space for this Josh character, who is now assuming this leadership role in the family and having to put up this front of strength and having to put up this front of keeping things together while internally he is absolutely disintegrating with his work life, his emotional life, and then obviously his underlying addictions as well. As far as a core memory or something that I had to draw on to really slip into that sort of space, you know, I like I said, I in my own family there was not only a single death but a series of deaths, and that created this very uncomfortable structure around money and around the will and around all these things. And so I quite literally had that exact situation happen to me where I had to sort of step up as the last surviving man in the family, and sort of the traditional, maybe a bit archaic, but that traditional pressure and expectation on the man in the family to be able to hold it together and to not be able to be weak myself. So yeah, I think that for sure was a very powerful reference point for me.
So I'm really happy you brought up the addiction aspect, because that's kind of like someone playing someone who's blind. Like, I've seen so many like performances of it where it comes across so hokey, and like and honestly offensive at points where I'm just like, oh wow, you didn't do any research on this. But what I really love about the way you play the addiction is that you're really conveying the struggle of the addiction itself, and like it's one of those things that it's not always at the forefront, but it's always present in
Mhm.
your performance. And I think that's a hell of a line that you have to walk. I think you do an incredible job doing so. What was the prep like? What was your research like in terms of that aspect of the character?
Totally. It's a very good question. So, one of my best friends, Chase Cargill, who we'll talk a little bit more about when we start talking about the Misadventures of Vincent Hick. He's my co-star. Chase and me both came up in theater at Chapman University, and one of our biggest pet peeves is people that aren't able to land drunk acting or aren't able to convey under the
Okay.
influence. So these kinds of things that you're talking about. And so fortunately myself, I have never suffered from an alcohol addiction. However, I think all human beings have some experience, some more than others, some experience with an addiction of some sort, whether it's food or it's
Agreed.
video games or it's weed, it's whatever it is. And so from that angle, I certainly have my experiences with various addictions. So I think those two elements, one, the drunk acting and the everything around alcohol in movies, being sort of a pet peeve of mine, and my, my friend Chase as well, fellow actor, that we often talk about. Like, we will specifically watch certain scenes on YouTube of actors doing drunk acting to specifically study, kind of like, okay, this is a little rough, or conversely, like, wow, look at how present this person is. And there's various exercises that I learned at Chapman as well, how to be under the influence of various substances, drunk, heroin, all kinds of things that are like, actually, they're very meditative exercises to kind of help you get into that state, to sort of mimic that experience. So I was able to draw on some of those exercises to kind of get into that space, and then draw on my own experiences with other addictions, food being one of them, other things where you feel like when you're at your most emotionally vulnerable, you are leaning onto these external sources for
Mhm.
validation, safety, comfort, whatever it is. So marrying those two, I think I was able to hopefully craft an authentic performance and experience with Josh, who was struggling with alcohol.
Which I think you definitely did. In terms of the shoot of Trust, like what was the scene for you that you found the most emotionally that required the most from you emotionally?
Hmm. Well, I'll tell you what. There is the funeral for Josh's mother, and the eulogy delivery. I lost my father when I was 20 years old. I was right in the middle of college. We shot Trust when I was 28, so some time had passed, but still, being in that kind of environment, delivering a eulogy, it really it's just gonna automatically, those memories and that experience will automatically color that performance. It can't not.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest method actor by any stretch. However, when there's a scene that's so mimicking your actual life and it's such a strong parallel, it can't not fill that. So that was very emotionally charged. But I think probably the most demanding physically and emotionally for me, where I really had to get myself to a particular space, is my scene with Tom Virtue, which who played
Hmm.
the business partner of my late mother in the film. Wonderful actor who, of course, shout out to all the 80s, 90s kids that watched Even Stevens. He was the dad,
Hell yeah.
Mr. Stevens himself. So that was a cool experience for me. But yeah, that scene, because it's not only loss, disappointment, sadness, but then it transforms into anger and rage, and then it melts back, and the tide pulls back to sadness again. So there was a lot of roller coaster with that performance that I wanted to craft for that particular scene. And Almog, my director, was really instrumental in
He
helping me
killed
craft
it.
that. He really did. He crushed it. And he's so wonderful to work with. I've been fortunate enough to work with Almog since we were in college as well. That's where we met. So he's been directing me for years and years. Really talented guy on so many levels. But as a director, what I really love about Almog is that he gets in with his actors and he really creates like an isolated space for him and you to be able to really massage out the nuances of what it is that you're about to perform. So that scene, there was a lot of support from Almog, and that helped me get there.
I will say too, one thing that, and I mean this as a compliment,
Mm-hmm.
when you get angry, I was like, oh fuck. Like I was like unnerved when you got angry. I was like, oh shit, like he's pissed off. Yeah, that I don't know what gear it is that you're able to lock into, but when you get angry, I was like Homer Simpson Bush's gift. Like I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable, but in the best way. So I love the way that you're able to lock in, and I think that scene for you is a true masterclass. So absolutely.
That's my favorite. My selfishly my favorite part of the film as well. I feel like not only I felt like really proud and confident in the performance I was able to bring on that particular scene, but also just acting opposite Tom Virtue for me. It was a really cool experience as a kid that grew up watching him on TV. So yeah, I really enjoyed that.
So I will ask about since you've worked with Almog so much, what is that balance between when he gives, like when you get direction from him versus kind of having that room to improv, like to give you the actor space to go ahead and kind of fill in certain gaps? Like what is that balance like working with a director who you've worked with so much?
Totally. Almog is a director who approaches his craft from the editor's perspective. He also edited Trust. He edited my next feature film, The Misadventures of Vincent Hick. He is such a talented director, editor, and writer. He does it all. But I think having that kind of angle on his directing, there's actually not a whole lot of space for improvisation. He does like things pretty measured, pretty exact. He's cutting the film in his head as he's directing it, which is great. I mean, if it's not to say he's not open to any suggestions, he's very, very collaborative. But in terms of the written language, I felt like it was pretty consistent with what Jen wrote, the script that she wrote. But, you know, there's certain scenes where it was funny. Projects that I've done with Almog in the past that have been comedic, that will have a little bit more space for improv, as I'm sure you can imagine. You can kind of play in the sandbox a little bit more. When it's this very intimate drama, there were moments where I would pull Almog aside. I was like, hey, like, what do you think about, like, if I kind of show a little bit bigger emotion here, or maybe I make a little joke here or sardonic comment there? And Almog was like, no, Josh is the Rock right now. He is committed to, even if he doesn't feel that way inside, he has to be the solid force in the room while he's surrounded by all these caricatures of family members. So he, on this particular project, reined me in a lot so that when I have those moments, such as the Tom Virtue scene when I'm exploding and I'm, you know, coming apart at the cracks, those feel much more impactful because we've been contained. So on that particular project, there not a whole lot of improv, but I think it really served the film a lot more being that way, being more structured.
Agreed, because I think it comes out just brilliantly. Moving on to the Misadventures of Vincent Hick, which I watched this morning with my first cup of coffee. I did my review already, so I can say this like without this the gleefulness of this interview coloring my review. Because I did the same thing after I watched Trust. I'm like, oh god, if I like these people after I interview them, I'm gonna it could skew my review. I fucking love this. Like I love this movie so goddamn much. And like as I was watching it, I I was having that feeling that I have when I watch really great indie movies where I'm like, oh, please stick the landing. Oh, please don't fuck this up. Like, don't make me knock this down like half a star or something. And I'm gonna admit, because it was 6 a.m. when I was watching this, as I was watching this, I was like, wow, I really, really, really like that guy in the Hawaiian shirt. I really like him. I really like Vince. And then and I don't know if it's because you have the shaved head, but I looked, I was like, wait a minute, what the fuck? That's Heston. How did I know? And it took like 20 minutes for my brain to go, like, dude, that's him. I was like, oh shit, okay. But it's such a different role from what you did in Trust. And I was really happy about that because I got to see you have like fun because like just to lay it out, like Vince comes across very shady when you first meet him. You're like, okay, this guy, like, there's like what's going on with Vince, but there's that like that silver tongue, like that slickness to him, where you're like, you could see how someone would very easily buy into his charm and then kind of be like, oh fuck, he stole my wallet. Like, as I didn't read, so I typically I don't watch trailers for movies I get. I go in cold because I don't want to know, especially in my indie stuff. It's like I don't care. Just give me a synopsis. I will watch it and I go from there. I did not read your story about how you got the funding. Jennifer alluded to it during our interview, and she said it's a crazy story. As soon as I saw funding, I scrolled past it. I was like, I don't want to know about it. I want to ask you about this in real time and be surprised. So I heard it's a crazy story. If you'd be so kind to inform.
Absolutely. Firstly, the greatest compliment that you could give me as an actor is what you just said, that you didn't recognize me for 20 minutes. That makes me so happy. Over the moon. Yes, between Trust and the Misadventures of Vincent Hick, it could not be more of a 180 in terms of energy and character. But to answer your question about the funding, so me and Chase Cargill, who I mentioned before, and then our third best friend, Trevor Stevens, we all came up at Chapman Film School, where Almog also came up, and Jen. So all of us came from the same place.
God damn, what a class. Holy shit.
For sure. Yeah, insane. We were all working together and have been working together for years. Super, super lucky in that regard. So during quarantine, me and Chase, still to this day, we're roommates. We live together. So we were quarantined together and we were just going crazy, wanting to make something creative. And so we linked up with our buddy Trevor, just the three of us, got an Airbnb out in the desert, and we wanted to film these characters, these fun, zany characters that we had in our heads. And we shot a couple of shorts that we put on YouTube, and we got some really good reception from friends and peers alike that were like, we love this world and these characters. We think you should make more. And so at first we were pitching it around as a TV show, TV series. And then I was like, well, maybe we can make this into a feature because we have the resources, the cast, the talents, all of that to make this into a movie. Now, how are we going to find the funding, right? That's always the biggest hurdle for any feature film, whether it's indie or studio, is like, okay, where's the money coming from? How much do you need, et cetera, et cetera. So the year that Rocksteady Row released, now this is going pre-COVID. This is going back a little bit. The year that Rocksteady Row released, directed by Trevor Stevens, same director as The Misadventures of Vincent Hick. Chase also has a fun little cameo in that film. We won Slamdance that year, and we were touring around the world, going to all kinds of awesome film festivals. In the middle of 2018, so I was having all these highs with Rocksteady Row, and it was shaping up to be an incredible year. One day afternoon, I was meeting up with a dear friend of mine, Stephanie Kurbis, and my sister Haley at a sushi stop in Studio City in July, hot summer day, just getting some sushi. And mid-lunch, I realized, I was like, shoot, I think I might have parked my car in a valet-only parking spot. So I'm going to go check on that really quick. So I excused myself from lunch. And I'm walking through this parking lot, and I'm looking at the street sign. I'm reading, it's of course in LA. It's, for those of you who are not in LA watching this, we have like the worst street signs in the world. They're
Agreed.
they're like,
Yeah, they're
and
terrible.
it's like impossible to understand. So I'm analyzing this as I'm walking through the parking lot, and then all of a sudden, wham! I get backed into by a van. I fly off my feet, Buster Keaton style. My shoe
Holy
flies
shit!
off, my glasses fly off. Next thing I know, I'm on the pavement and I'm looking at like the back of the van coming at me, and it screeches at a halt. It felt like an NFL linebacker just blindsided me or something like that. I didn't even realize what had happened. Like I just flew off my
Oh
feet.
my
I
god!
had no idea. It was no vision of it at all. And then next thing I know, all these people are pouring out of the sushi stop and the stores nearby, and everyone's gathering around looking like, "Are you okay? Oh my gosh, are you okay?" Took me about like 10 seconds to realize, like, oh my god, I just got hit by a van. Like not a car,
Holy
a
crap!
full van, like a giant van. Um, thankfully, I call it the Goldilocks injury, where it was just bad enough for there to be an injury settlement, which, spoiler alert, that comes into play, but
Yeah.
not severe enough for it to be life altering. Of course, I was on
Good.
crutches for the next few months, and this whole thing, but there was a security camera in the parking lot. It caught the whole thing on tape. So that's in 2018. Now, litigation and the court system and all this stuff, it takes a while. It takes years.
Yeah.
And then it took even more years because quarantine happened. So quarantine delayed this further. Now my leg is healed. Obviously, quarantine, like I said before, me and Trevor and Chase come up with these characters in this world. We shoot some shorts. At this point, I've totally forgotten about the accident 2 years prior. Now flash forward 2 years after quarantine, we're in 2022. We have a feature script written for the Misadventures of Vincent Hick that I wrote. We've been trying to figure out funding for this feature. We're taking meetings. It's like it is for most people. It's tough to get a buck from studios or investors alike. And then January of 2022, all of a sudden, plop, the settlement came through, and I had
Hell yeah.
an angel investment in the account, and I looked at it. I was in a rehearsal at the time. I looked at it on my phone, and I immediately texted Trevor and Chase. I go, "Boys, we got our money for the film. Let's go make the Misadventures of Vincent Hick."
Holy shit.
And we shot it that May of the same year of 2022.
Goddamn, that's crazy. Like, what the fuck? Oh my god. So, as someone who walks a lot, has almost been hit by dozens of. So, actually, I think I've talked about this, but I got hit by a car on a bike when I was 15. I got hit by a Domino's pizza truck or car.
Okay.
I go up on the windshield. Probably had a concussion. I was 15. It was a minute ago. I'm like, ow. Like, I remember my shoulder just hurt like really badly. I was like, oh, that sucked, because like land on pavement, super awesome. And I just remember the Domino's car just driving away and just leaving me there. I was like, you asshole. So like, luckily, like nothing was broken or anything. Like it should have been far worse. But 15-year-old me, if I had the wherewithal to write that, I mean, this would have been 2001. So kids, I didn't like, if this happened now, I would have taken a picture of my cell phone. I would have been, good. But 2001, like cell phones were still gray. Like I didn't have a notepad with me, but I remember just being like, oh wow, like, oh man, I could have gotten some money from Domino's like that, or free pizza or something. But
at least lifetime of free pizza.
Yeah, I mean that would have been nice. Like, I mean, like who doesn't like pizza?
Shout out to Domino's right now. We need to get Domino's in here, and they need to make they need to be good with you. I think a lifetime free pizza at the very least is the best.
I think that, or sponsor the pod, or do both. Like, I think that's more than fair. Like, I don't lie on here. You should just give me free pizza. But that's insane. So okay, so how long were you on crutches for?
I was on crutches at least 3 months, and for a time I was even like in a wheelchair for certain events and stuff like that, because I'm a big Comic-Con fan and I go every single year, and I was like, I'm not missing Comic-Con in San Diego. Even
Fair.
have a gimp leg, so Chase put me in a wheelchair and wheeled me around Comic-Con that year. So
That's
yeah,
insane.
I was supposed to get surgery on the knee, but what ended up happening was it got delayed because of quarantine and because of COVID, and it healed over that time. And then I got a
Oh
second
wow.
opinion, and they were like, honestly, you probably shouldn't do surgery on it if it feels better. So I didn't. Like I said, Goldilocks injury. It was just bad enough to fund my movie, but not bad enough for permanent damage. So yeah, very, very lucky. Obviously, I can't recommend that as a form of raising money for a feature film. Protect
Yeah,
your body.
probably not.
Look everywhere you're going in the parking lot. But yeah, pretty bizarre way to have gotten money to make my dream feature film.
Was there like, because I would imagine, like, because I remember myself like 6 months, like I was way more cautious just walking. Like if I heard a horn, I'd be like, ah, what the fuck? Like, like was there a point that you were able to kind of like move past that emotional that mental aspect of it, or
It still freaks me out a little bit to this day when I'm like
fair?
at a street, even like a neighborhood street, and I'm like crossing. I still, especially in LA, because people are roaring down even neighborhood streets. So like, absolutely, it's stuck with me like for a couple years afterwards. The kicker of it too was that I saw the van enter the parking lot, and we made eye contact, and I waved the guy past me. So he drove past me. I kept walking, and then he put his truck or his van in reverse and then laid me out. So it was like, even though I felt like I was being a good walker, a good civilian, I made contact, I waved the guy through, and then I was like,
Yeah,
I have the right of way to walk in the parking lot. I still got hit. So I was like, I was freaked out for sure, just walking around LA for a while after that. I think at this point, for the most part, I've moved on, but every once in a while, I do have little flashes and like daymares, like while I'm walking on city streets. So be careful out
fair. God damn, that's not. Yeah, like I wear headphones a lot, and I constantly turn them down if I'm like walking past a crosswalk or something like that. I'm just like, I do not want to get, I do not want to get popped. Especially where I'm at in Nevada, people will freak out when like it rains, and they're just like, oh god, I can't drive, and so I'm just always like, all right, I'm gonna be careful.
there.
You mentioned Comic-Con. I'm a giant nerd. My office is like Funko City and like
Right.
movie poster city. Like, so yeah, talk to me about your nerdom. Like, what are you nerdy about? Like, what could you give a TED talk about? Let me put it to you like that.
I love that. Yes, nerds unite. I love that you are a fellow nerd. I would say the things that I'm the biggest nerd over would be Lord of the Rings.
Nice.
During quarantine, I was posting a bunch of Kmart Gandalf sketches on TikTok that went viral. To
Yes.
this day, I still do this Gandalf character that I've had since 2020. Video games. Another one of those characters that got really popular on TikTok that I was doing was my own rendition of Johnny Silverhand.
Oh shit. Okay.
Those were really, really popular. I to keep consistent with Keanu Reeves, the Matrix and John Wick movies. Me and my roommate Chase are obsessed with those films.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I love it all, and comic books for sure as well was a big part of my childhood. And comic books have, as I'm sure you saw, a big aesthetic influence in the Misadventures of Vincent Hick. And my dream is I'm actually realizing the dream, but I'm currently building a comic book with our artist Tony Donnelly that did all of our comics.
Oh, let's go.
So we're building an issue that I want to sell with the feature when we release the movie, and I want to promote it at Comic-Con
Ooh.
and all kinds of conventions. And it doesn't even have to be specifically comic books and movies and video games. It can also be like VHS conventions and swap meets that they do. I want to go to all of these kinds of places that I love to go to, and I love to collect. I'm a big physical collector as well, so I like to buy my video games physical. I like to buy my movies physical. I have a VHS collection. That's
Oh my
another
gosh.
leg of history.
You're warming my heart right now. I hope you know that. Like I could not agree. Like, so I'm a huge physical media person too. Like I have gone on multiple, fuck it, I'll go on one right now real quick. So Disney Plus, Disney be better. They put out a movie called Crater back in like 2021. And it's like this movie about these kids who are on the space station. They get lost. They have to get back, travel across the moon. Da da da. But it was a Disney Plus original film, so it was only on digital. And I remember telling people like, you should really watch this. These kids are really good. It's kind of got that Super 8, like ET kind of vibe. And they pulled it. And my partner just had to hear me go on this very high rant, as I often do, about physical media. And when we first started seeing each other, she was like, why do you still buy DVDs? It's like, because I've seen streamers pull shit from nowhere. And then I'm like, oh, wow, I can't watch this thing I want to do. HBO Max, be better about your shit on Adult Swim, by the way. And it's frustrating because it's like, oh, I want to watch, Space Ghost or what have you. And then it's just not there. It's like, what am I paying you guys a monthly fee for when you just pull shit? And so I've been getting more into Criterion because again, film nerds. And
Same.
I've been getting more of those. The day Best Buy stopped buying steelbooks or selling steelbooks, my heart genuinely broke because I fucking love steelbook like movies. Like I like having something tangible in my hand. So like we don't have a comic book shop really where I'm at. So I'm kind of forced to go the more digital route. But when they put out the trades or the collections, I'm like, oh, cool, I'll buy that. Like I'll go somewhere and actually buy that and put it on my bookshelf. So I really love having tangible physical media. And if I can buy a movie that I love, especially when I see companies more and more going like, oh, you don't own this, you're just renting it even though you bought it. And I see stuff like that, I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I still buy physical. So everything you just said, I could not co-sign any more on. So thank you for that. Could not agree more.
1,000%. And I think it's up to the indie filmmakers to kind of bring physical back even more than it already is starting to, because you're starting to see Gen Z really get into physical media because they came up not having a whole lot of physical items because their childhood was the big boom of streamers and everything like that. And now in their 20s, they're really craving that tactile, nostalgic experience that millennials and generations prior got to experience. There's just a certain quality and tactile nature to physical media as well, and with DVDs and VHSs. And I was saying, I think it's up to the indie filmmakers to bring that back, because what you're seeing now is a lot of studios and bigger production companies, their productions of Blu-rays are becoming less and less frequent. And you have places like public libraries that still buy DVDs. You still have collectors that still buy DVDs. And so, if a feature at the studio budget level gets a release at all, a physical release, it's going to be Blu-ray. But we're finding more and more that people are still yearning for that nostalgic quality on the DVD and the VHS. And so what I really am aiming to do with the Misadventures of Vincent Hick is to get a limited release on VHS, maybe like a 99-100 tape production. I'm already talking to people that work in that side that have VHS production machinery. And then, like I said, a physical comic book that I think the way that I want to do it digitally is having sort of like a video game DLC when you have a unique barcode inside the case.
Nice.
It's
okay.
Like that with the comic book. So I'll sell these comic books that are 2 for 1. You get the comic book and the movie. You have a unique barcode on the inside of the jacket that you scan that gives you a digital copy ownership of the film. And then I also am going to do DVD productions as well, and then ideally Blu-rays. But yeah, like I said, I'm a big advocate for physical media, big collector of physical media. Also big Criterion collection guy. I'm waiting for the next
Nice.
50% off sale for sure.
Same. I'm already locked in, ready for
Yes. Yeah. And then also to your earlier question as well about things that I am obsessed with and a nerd about, anime, manga, huge inspiration for me. Toonami as a kid was sort of my foray into that.
Oh, you did not just shout out to the
Yep.
Heston. Again, my nerd
Love,
heart. You were just
love languages.
I
The characters of Vincent Hick, the ensemble cast are very heavily inspired by an anime called Lupin the Third, which was a favorite of mine growing up.
which I'm familiar with. Okay, okay. Oh my gosh, just when I thought I couldn't like you more. So the Toonami shout out first off, that just to get a little nerdy, a dream project outside of fixing Marvel, which Kevin Feige, I am available for less than I'm sure you're paying the people at Marvel now. Just give me 20 minutes. I could lay out shit for the next decade. I remember I used to watch Garfield and Friends at 7:00 in the morning, and then I would watch Sailor Moon at 7:30. So Sailor Moon was like the first anime I got into, and then I got I got into like Bleach and Full Metal and like your classics, and then more kind of off the beaten path stuff like maybe like a something like the Boondocks or like original Powerpuff Girls, stuff like that. In terms of the visual style of this movie, because again, I glanced at the email because again, I didn't want to know too much going into it. I think the thing that one thing I loved is your commitment to black and white for a good portion of it. But then when you introduce color, in the terms of your character, in terms of Vince, there's a purpose done with it. Yeah. And I love the visual aesthetic of having that little bit of color with the black and white. Like, I am a little basic in terms that, like, if you show me a black and white photo, I'm immediately just like, what is this about? Like, just the aesthetic is always like, that's the Photoshop nerd in me coming out. But I've always just loved that aesthetic, and it takes me kind of back to the old school, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics, like in the late 80s and early 90s. That's another reason why black and white has always just resonated with me. I think the visual style of this movie is just so fucking unique and cool, and I love your use of framing to make it look like comic book panels. Just like there's just so many moments visually while I'm watching this movie, I'm like, okay, you guys are showing off, and I mean that in like the best way. Was that a conscious, like, how early on in the creative process were you like, this is our style, it's gonna enhance the movie, like we're gonna lean into this? Because I feel like that could be a trick that you could overplay, and yet I think it really elevates the film. Like it felt like the way I felt the same way watching this that I felt like when I was watching Scott Pilgrim, where I was like, someone clearly knew how to make this work, was influenced by it, but didn't want to use it as a crutch. Like, and I think again, that's such a hard balance to strike. Like, talk to me kind of about that process and how you guys were able to achieve that.
So we're really on the same wavelength here. Scott Pilgrim versus the World is my actual all-time #1 favorite movie. I have watched it more times than any film ever. I still remember to this day when I was a little kid watching on cable TV when I was in a hotel room with my parents on vacation one year, and they were doing the behind the scenes of Scott Pilgrim versus the World coming to theaters like next year. I still remember like just being glued to the TV screen, like, what is this movie? Like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And the film itself delivered beyond my wildest expectations and dreams. And obviously the Brian Lee O'Malley books. I have a poster signed by him as well. Like,
Oh hell, oh I envy you. That's amazing.
the source material. Those are also my favorite graphic novels. Yeah, so obviously that is a heavy inspiration on Vincent Hick. Um, Anything visually dazzling and unique and out of the box, that full credit goes to Trevor Stevens, our director. Trevor, who's also a big comic book Marvel savant himself, he needs to be, we've said this since college, like, you need to direct a superhero film or franchise. Like, he has such like the perfect brain and the perfect understanding of the cinematic language. So it was a process for us to figure out the visual style of this movie. I said earlier we shot this in May and then into June of 2022. We've only just recently, and honestly, we're still technically tying up some loose ends on the film and post-production. It's been a 3-year long post-production.
Damn.
So there are
Okay.
many versions of this film. Our original YouTube shorts that we filmed, we did those in all black and white because we were out in the desert. We wanted to have this kind of like vintage Nick at Night energy to it, where you're not sure of the time period. Also,
Nice throwback. Nice.
And then just for practical budgetary reasons, you're in the desert, high noon, it's bright, it's overexposed. You do that in black and white, it neutralizes a lot of that harshness. So the original version of the feature was also in black and white, but we wanted key objects in color. So the script, the original script that I penned, it's written as this is in black and white with very specific important objects highlighted in color, which we've seen in other films as well before. And as we were kind of working through these rough cuts, we kept getting feedback from various people that were like, this feels like a bigger, larger than life film that needs to be in color. The characters are larger than life. It has these comic book elements to it. This awesome artwork that's drawn by Tony Donnelly, as I mentioned before, who was also our neighbor, mine and Chase's neighbor. We all lived in the same apartment complex during quarantine.
Oh my God. Of course he was. That's so cool.
Creatives just right here at my doorstep. But people were like, yeah, like, I think you should try this in color. So we tried it in color. And what that did was it elevated certain shots, but then it also made other shots look worse because of the overexposed lighting. So we were trying to figure out, like, what do we do here? Cut to year 3, one of our dear friends and an absolute magician, the colorist, the 9-time Emmy Award-winning colorist, Brian Smaller, as I refer to him. He's a college buddy of ours, but he was like a prodigy since day one. He started working at this company called Company 3, and they color the John Wick films and all kinds of huge Hollywood blockbuster movies.
Shit. Okay.
So he is top of the line, so much so that when we first set out to make this film, we were like, there's no way we're going to be able to get Brian Smaller attached because he's just doing much bigger stuff now. He colored our first feature film, Rocksteady Row, and then just exploded ever since then. So we go through this 3-year-long process back and forth. Is it black and white? Is it in color? What is it? And finally, I was like, you know what? Let me just throw a Hail Mary and let me grovel on my hands and feet for Brian Smaller. Do us solid and work at an indie budget rate to just do one more game with us here. So I begged and I pleaded and somehow it worked. And
Damn.
Brian came on board, and Brian, the color doctor, looked at it and he said, well, what if it's a combination of black and white and color, and you kind of have the bookends of the film in black and white, and then the actual, all the misadventures and the craziness that can be in color. We're like, okay, I like that. I think we're warmer. And then Trevor, being the brilliant director that he is, he was like, let's make this character motivated and have Vince be the person that brings the color into Hick's life. So now we have a narrative drive for why the color enters Hick's world, because Hick's life, as we begin the film, he's very lonely, he's isolated, he's down on his luck, he's just out of prison, he can't get a job, he's estranged from his daughter. It's bleak, it's black and white, it's sad. And then this character, almost sort of like the 1980s film The Page Master, this
Nice. Yeah, love that.
this flood of color into his life, and then all of a sudden he's going on these fantastical misadventures. And then I'll keep it spoiler free, but obviously their paths diverge at the end for circumstances people will have to watch for themselves to see. And Hick's world returns back to black and white, because without Vince, his world is colorless, which we thought was a really lovely mirror of the narrative as well. So that was a big combination of Trevor and Brian Smoller's genius.
Yeah, they did an incredible job with this visually. I have to shout you out for the script, because holy like as I was just like sitting here watching it, without getting too spoilery, the dialogue is so quick and it's so sharp, and it's really the same thing that I told Jennifer I loved about Trust. So I was like, because I'm big on like human dialogue, and I really hate when people don't talk the way that humans would normally talk. Like it's one of those things that it hits a spot of my brain that I really hate, and like I can just feel myself like angry scribbling. Like when that happens, I'm like, oh my god, you're so getting a C or a D. Like I get so angry about it. And so as I was watching this and watching Vince and Hick go back and forth, I was like, oh my god, this is giving me vibes of something like a Money Talks, or like a Bulletproof, like those 90s action comedies where you're like, oh my god, this is just fun. And the banter between these guys alone would be enough to make at least a good film. But what I think makes this a great film is the action beats when they hit, when you start introducing more of the action. I love the way that someone gets punched and I see the comic book like pow like on the screen, or there's some gun shit in here that actually like shocked me in the best way. Like they're without spoiling anything, someone gets like an ear shot off at a point, and I was like holy shit, like it but there's several moments like that made me say holy shit, like in the best way. And yet I never feel like the movie lost. Like another thing too is like I think films like this, it can be really hard to maintain momentum throughout the whole film. And yet as I was watching it, I was so invested in Hick from jump, because you can tell he wants to be better, but because of some life choices he's made, he's in a tough spot. And then when you meet Vince, you're like, oh, like this guy, to your point, is literally bringing color into his life. But also Vince seems like a bit of a skis. So like, what's his story? And yet seeing these characters both grow together and balance each other out, you have a great callback to the story, without spoiling, this story in high school, that when you brought that back, I was like, oh my god, yes. And I actually like cheered. I was like, oh, that's fucking clever. So like I want to give you your props for the script, because I was so engaged and so like happy the whole time watching it, that when it got to the end, my first thought, and like I don't typically write questions for interviews because I like to just have it be like a conversation, but the one question I wrote for you is, would you be down, because you did say that it was original, you're kind of thinking like maybe it's a feature and maybe we go ahead and do it as a TV show. Would this be a world you'd want to go ahead and revisit at some point down the road?
100,000%. And furthermore, it's a world that I will be revisiting and expanding upon. At the end of our credits, it says, as our little nod to Marvel, Vince and Hick will return. So Vince and Hick are absolutely going to be coming back. The title is Misadventures for a reason. I've already started writing the sequel. So
yes.
In our minds, the ideal is we joked around, every 7 years we'll do a new installment of the Misadventures of Vince and Hick and see where they are in their lives. But again, Lupin the Third being a huge reference point for me in terms of the scope of the Bandits of Thieves and that whole myriad of journeys that they go on together. Lupin the Third has been going since like the 70s, I think it is, with the
Yeah, that sounds right.
Castle Cagliostro, I think it is, the Miyazaki film. It
Yeah,
kicked
yeah,
off,
yeah.
and then they've been making iterations ever since. So that's what I see for these characters as well. Their inevitable fate is to become international thieves that are always on the run from the law. And for the actual writing, the dialogue and these zany characters, Elmore Leonard was a huge reference point for me.
Okay.
So Swag, I read Swag before I wrote the script. Out of Sight, Get Shorty, these kinds of crime, snappy, silver-tongued, cool sorts of characters and worlds really appeals to me. And also the feature film Midnight Run, where you have these
Fantastic reference.
90s, again, it's like Midnight Run, Lethal Weapon, these 90s action buddy comedies that the studio system is sort of left behind. I feel like it was such a fun genre that had,
Agreed.
yeah, and we wanted to see that come back. Now, in terms of the violence, that's heavily inspired by Robert Rodriguez, 90s Coen brothers, Tarantino. Obviously, you get that sort of seedy, dark violence that can interrupt a humorous moment at any given point. And so, yes, I want to make this the biggest indie franchise of all time. That's my goal.
Let's go. Let's go.
Why I'm expanding this from not only film but also comic books. I also want to pen serialized novels, sort of like the Hardy Boys, but again with that Elmore Leonard.
Okay.
So I want to be writing serialized novels for these characters. But for right now, what makes the most sense is building that comic book because I have the artist and I have those resources available to me, and then writing the sequel script, which I've already begun writing, and I'm very excited. It's quite a bit darker than the first, but it's still going to have all the fun characters and laughs that you loved from the first one. So this is a franchise, and I'm really excited to release this publicly and to start getting those wheels moving because it is people like you, it's people like me, it's people that follow me on TikTok for my silly Gandalf and Johnny Silverhand sketches that I do with Chase as well. And we, like all the video game nerd content that we do, like it is really, nerds unite. Like that is what I'm trying to do with this. And I'm trying to make a franchise for me and my community.
I love that so much. I cannot express enough how excited I am that you're doing a sequel because I was actually sad when this ended. I was like, fuck, it's over. Like because I don't look at the runtime and then like where the movie ends up. I was like, oh shit. Like and then the credits. I was like, oh, I was like, damn it.
Good. I'm glad you had that feeling.
Couple more questions. What is your writing process like? Like when you started this and you're like, okay, I want to write this. Like I know for myself, I have my process when I record. Does your process change based on what genre you're writing? So like if you're gonna sit down like write like a horror flick, would you have a different process versus writing kind of this like 90s like buddy comedy?
Great question. The process doesn't change between genres. I do have a horror comedy that I'm shopping around right now that Trevor is attached to direct that I'm really excited about. That's just a separate plug. That's called Like Old Times. And that is basically The Breakfast Club meets Resident Evil. So that's
okay.
Really fun project. I'm super excited about that. We have an amazing team around that. But in terms of my writing process, so I studied and performed for about 11 years at a comedy theater, a world famous comedy theater called the Groundlings in LA.
Oh, hell yeah, yeah.
And the Groundlings have produced a lot of Saturday Night Live alumni, a lot of other comedic legends like Jim Rash, who plays the Dean in Community. Another one of my all-time favorite shows.
Love that show.
So I was performing there on the Sunday Company for a number of years, and that taught me basically how to be cranking out about 4 to 5 comedy sketches a week. So that could be anywhere from like 16 to 20 pages a week sometimes.
Holy shit.
Minimum, I'm writing 8 to 10 pages, maximum about 20. So that's still a lot of pages to be churning out on a weekly basis. So that built this muscle of really writing scenes and really learning just the anatomy of what a complete scene should be. And ultimately I was like, well, can I take this process of individual sketches, individual scenes, beginning, middle, and ends, and string a series of scenes together to make a feature length script here. So I essentially just adapted all of my writing training and groundlings to just the feature length version of that. And in terms of the actual writing of the dialogue and the writing of the scene description and everything like that, I occasionally will use to a varying degree. I always have an outline, but for certain features, the outlines will be a lot more fleshed out. Whereas with Vincent Hick, I didn't have a very fleshed out outline because I knew these characters. I knew these characters so well by the time I wrote that feature script, because we had already done these shorts on YouTube back in quarantine. And now that you've seen the feature, if you go back and watch the shorts, you will see that the majority of what's written in the shorts was implemented in some way, shape, or form in the feature. And because we already knew by the end of the second short, like, this is where these characters are going. They're trying to get to Hick's daughter's 10th birthday party. That is the end goal. I also wrote the Misadventures of Vincent Hick in the shortest span of time that I've written any script, period. And I really think it's my strongest work. I wrote that in about, I want to say, 20 days.
Are you serious?
And I was nonstop. Like, I was just writing.
Holy shit, man.
And obviously there were refinements and rewrites of the drafts, but like, that first draft was pretty darn close to what we ended up filming.
That's wild.
And it's something that really, like, it resonated with me on such a deep level. It's my favorite thing that I've ever done. This movie, it's my favorite character that I've ever played. It's my favorite world that I've ever been in. So it felt like really, it was just pouring out of me, and I was just writing as fast as I could, because I was just like, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens. There are a couple of like moments that I needed to massage out, which Trevor and Chase are great collaborators for, in terms of like, how do I get from this point to that point? Okay, got it. And I'm back on track. I wrote that script so fast, but it felt like it felt fleshed out. It didn't feel rushed. It didn't feel like I was just cranking out pages for the sake of cranking out pages. It felt very, very purposeful. And like I said, it was just like exploding out of me. So yeah, it was a pretty wild experience. And then those rewrites also continued throughout production, because it was 2022. We still had some COVID restraints, certain actors, contract issues, had to bow out. We had to write a character out of the film, like all kinds of craziness. So I was actively producing the film, then acting in it. And then at nighttime, I would go back home and I'd be like, okay, the domino effect from no longer having this person available, I need to rewrite this scene without that person, which now creates a domino effect in all these other scenes. So every night I'm like rewriting the next day's scene. But we have such a collaborative team. And obviously my training and my comfort zone is in improv, and it's in sketch comedy. And so many of my collaborators are also, we're all scrappy filmmakers that came up together since film school. And when you're in film school and you have no money and you're just getting a camera and shooting stuff and figuring out like, okay, like, how do we tell a story here? Everyone's forte has to be in adaptability, and has to be in improv, and has to be in, okay, we don't have this prop anymore. What can we use instead? Or this location or this thing is now suddenly available to us, which we didn't expect to have. How can we write in something that can utilize this like amazing space that we can shoot at, or this incredible, vehicle or prop, whatever it is. So yeah, it was such a explosively, like, all over the place experience, while also being a very, very focused, like, bullet train forward. It was such a such a crazy experience, and it was my favorite time on any project ever.
So I have to ask,
Mhm.
like a lot of anime, like I mean, because there's several animes that have been going for years, like fuck years, decades. Like
Mhm.
like there's so many. Like you could just go down the list. Do you, since these characters mean so much to you, and you clearly like are passionate about these characters and where you want the story to go, do you have an end game as far as where you want them to end up, or are you trying to keep yourself fluid so that you're not restricting yourself potentially creatively on certain volumes?
Yeah, I mean, things are always subject to change, but we have me and Chase and Trevor. We have, again, just in light conversation, talked about like where we could see these characters going and where we can see them ending up, and even playing around with certain titles for the subsequent movies. Um, Ultimately, this film is a love story, right? And the love
Yeah.
stories don't always have to be romantic. They don't always have to be, the stereotypical studio kind of thing. It can also be, the love story can be about a father and his daughter, or the love story really underneath everything in this movie is about two friends and friendship and chosen family. And sometimes when the world, or when your own family members abandon you, as they did for Vince, or the world abandons Hick, uh, you still have that bond and that friendship. And obviously Vincent Hicks is forged through fire and forged through this odd couple kind of Blues Brothers type journey. But by the end, we really see that they are best friends. And I think that where I see this going is that they are soulmates that can't get rid of each other, for better or for worse. And so Vince and Hick are going to ride this thing to the end, into their old age. So like I said, it's like every 7 years we want to do an installment, and I want to see these characters grow as I and Chase grow. And Chase is one of my best friends and absolutely one of my soulmates, and Trevor Stevens is absolutely one of my best friends and soulmates. And that chosen family has meant so much to me over the years, even throughout all the trials and tribulations with my actual biological family, as we discussed with trust. And throughout all of that, Chase and Trevor have always been there for me as a collaborator and friend, and as chosen family. So I see Vincent Hick as a reflection of that.
I love that. I can't wait to see where they go. Last question I have for you, and it's one that I usually ask anyone I interview. I can't wait for people to watch this. I've already told people in this movie group chat that I run on Facebook, which is, we probably send 1,000 messages a day. Like it's a constantly running thing. Like we're always talking about nerd shit or me. Like we're always talking about something. I've already hyped this movie up. I'm like, I can't wait for y'all to watch this. I'm as soon as I hop off here, I'm writing my letterbox review. Like I'm so excited to talk about this.
Thank you.
For someone who watches this movie and is like, oh my God, I love this. Like I want to get into comic books. I want to get into like what is the biggest, okay, two-parter.
Mhm.
What's the biggest piece of advice you would give an aspiring writer who wants to get to where you are? And then if you had 3 sources to give someone to kind of start them on their path, whether it's a critic to follow, whether it's an anime to read, whether it's a movie to watch, what would you give someone go start here?
Cool. Love that question. Number one, I would say, is to build your community, and that means you find your creative friends and find those creative friendships that you can make stuff with. Because going back to my beginnings, it was always just me, best friends, and a camera. And so nowadays we have our phones, and we have so much accessible technology and platforms like TikTok, where we can, like, you can realistically go viral overnight with the right kind of source content.
Yeah.
Or what. Not that really should be the goal. Those things kind of just, it's lightning in a bottle, and they happen, I think, over time with consistency, and practice and research. But I would say building that community has been so crucial for me. There's so many ways to do that for those, maybe viewers that might be in high school, not in college yet, or plan on not doing college. There's so many different areas that I've found that I've been able to build connections and relationships with, which include Obviously, film school was a big one for me, but then also taking those improv classes at Groundlings then just snowballed into all of a sudden I'm doing the Sunday company there and I'm doing shows there. And I met all these wonderful creatives that I put in my movie as well. Going to film festivals, which
Yes, hell yeah.
I started doing without having any projects at in film festivals yet. So when I was in college, I went on a field trip to Sundance with some other friends,
Oh,
and
nice.
it changed my life. Just going there, being in the environment, seeing movies, understanding a bit more how everything works, how the industry works. Things have drastically changed since then. I think that was about 2013. But still, being in those places, those hubs, film festivals, and there's so many film festivals as well that you never know. It could be a stone's throw away from where you are, no matter what state, town, city you are in.
True.
There are so many awesome film festivals that exist that you can attend. And like I said, you don't have to have a project that's in competition or anything like that. You can just go meet other people that are also just going. And next thing you know, you hit it off. You have the same sensibilities, and then you might want to shoot a short film together. So that's number one: build a community, find relationships, any means necessary. Also forums on Reddit, forums on Facebook, whatever it is, join a group, start meeting people, show up in person, take a class. Then aside from that is really it's consistency. Like
Yeah.
understanding that no matter what level any artist achieves or gets to, they are still in some form or another in the hamster wheel of human nature, which is like, I need to be farther than where I am right now. It is
Very true. Very true.
it's the condition we all unfortunately have as human beings that have ambition. So I think learning to reconcile with that. Sidebar: meditation's good, self-help books are great, therapy's amazing.
Yep, agreed.
But when you kind of understand that, like, oh, okay, like in an interview I heard Christian Bale say, any big role that I had was because Leonardo DiCaprio passed on it. And I was like, that's so crazy to me to think about Christian Bale having like the same feelings that I might have. Obviously, we are worlds apart in terms of success, fame, money, whatever it is. But the human experience that Christian Bale might be having looking at Leo DiCaprio is like, it's all relative. So I think accepting that as an artist and being like, look, I am kind of on this constant quest for getting better and stretching, but if I can focus on the journey of that as being the highlight in the day to day, and if I can be patient with myself and I can kind of release the external validations, the external acceptances, the external benchmarks, whatever it is, if we can shift to just being patient and consistent with ourselves, that's gonna, I think, pay dividends in being a successful person, artist, whatever it is. And I think it's the key to longevity too, is being able to not beat up yourself so much for not being farther along than you might be. So stay
true.
consistent, keep making stuff, whether it's on your iPhone or it's on a friend's camera or you're writing. I spent a couple of years where I wasn't acting at all and I was just writing, because writing is free. So it's just, all I have to do is open my laptop and writing. So that's just finding ways to stay consistent, stay creative. And then the second part to your question, a few pieces to read. Hugely influential book for me was Like Brothers by the Duplass brothers. Their book.
Nice.
Highly recommend. It's a short, very digestible book that really just tackles getting the wheels greased and moving and just getting a production started. And just mindset and everything. I can't recommend Like Brothers enough. And then also another book about filmmaking is The Cheerful Subversive's Guide to Independent Filmmaking. So I'll say that again, it's a mouthful. The Cheerful Subversive's Guide to Independent Filmmaking. And that is written by a good friend of mine, Dan Mervish, who is one of the co-founders of the Slamdance Film Festival.
Nice.
He is still making movies, making great indie films. He really is, like, I would say one of the leading leading forces in the indie filmmaking rebel resistance. Like he's one of the OGs, going back to, again, founding Slamdance as a counter culture to Sundance, and always just finding creative ways to make movies and to just keep doing what you love to do. So A Cheerful Subversive's Guide to Independent Filmmaking, Like Brothers, and then maybe just like a fun one, I would say Cowboy Bebop, which is my favorite
Nice.
favorite anime of all time, because I also feel like it transcends the genre of anime as well.
Agreed.
It feels like anime, and it has that 90s tactile, hand-drawn element to it, but the jazz music and the direction of the series, and it's very digestible. It's only, I think it's 27 episodes, 28 episodes long, half hour. There's a reason a lot of people consider that the godfather of anime. I think just in general as storytelling, regardless of it being an anime, it's been so influential for me in terms of what I aspire to achieve as an artist, just in terms of the level of originality, uniqueness, and then taking a genre and taking something and just turning it inside out and letting shit rip, and as creative and as unique to that particular creator as it possibly could be. So those three things, highly recommend.
Okay. Heston, sir, this was a joy. like honestly, this yeah, I wow, because it was funny because I was talking to Jennifer. I was like, I'm literally interviewing Heston right after I get done with interviewing you. After I'm grabbing a second cup of coffee, and then I'm hopping that interview. And I'm really I cannot thank you enough for taking the time and for sending me that link. Like I cannot wait for people to watch this. Like I'm so excited for people to watch this. And the moment their physical copy, like DVDs are a thing, I'm buying one. Like you let me know, I will be buying one, because I can't wait to show this to my partner. I can't wait for my friends to watch this. Like I'm this was a genuine joy to watch, and it was a genuine joy to have you on. And I cannot express enough how much I appreciate you making the time. If you could please let people know where they can find you on socials before I let you go.
Yes. And firstly, thank you so much. Like, it really is an honor for me to be on your show, and have been nothing but a pleasure and a joy to not only talk about my movies with, but to also talk about our mutual and respective nerd obsessions as well. We are like-minded, and you're absolutely the exact person that I need to find the Misadventures of Vincent Hick. So to follow me along the journey, again, the film, we're probably going to be releasing it summer of 2026.
Nice.
So in the meantime, you can find the shorts that exist publicly on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, which is just Heston Horwin, Heston Horwin. You'll find me on YouTube, and you can type in the Misadventures of Vincent Hick. You'll find chapters 1 and 2 up there. And then you can find me on TikTok, also just at Heston Horwin, and the same thing on Instagram at Heston Horwin. And in addition, if you want to follow the film's journey, that would be at Vince and Hick Movie. So that's exclusively on Instagram. Everywhere else is just my name, Heston Horwin. Check out those shorts. There might even be some promotional TikTok sketches that may be coming out soon as well, to start getting these characters out into the ether before we release the movie. But yeah, I cannot wait to share this film with the rest of the world, and particularly my nerd communities, and to get some really cool physical media out there as well.
I'm so excited for people to discover this. I think it's going to be a huge hit. I can't wait for the further misadventures. But Heston, again, Wow, I think you might have beaten Jennifer's time for interview. I think I was around 90 minutes with her and Almog, so I think you're at least in the range because we
Okay.
went over an hour. So, so props because not everyone gets to go over an hour. So, but
Thank you for that. I had the ace up my sleeve of Criterion video games, Marvel, and all the other things, anime as well. So we had to discuss that.
Exactly. Okay, one more question. I promise I'll let you go. What is a nerd property? So full range. What is a nerd property that you feel has not been brought to screen or has been underutilized? That if you got blank check, here Heston, write a script for us for this, or write a TV show for us for this. What would your property be? For me, outside of Marvel, because I could, again, Feige hire me. I would go Men in Black because I think the comics are actually very underrated, and the kids show is actually horrendously underrated, and I think I could write an 8-episode series of that. Not easily, because that sounds cocky. But
maybe if you're honestly a true fan, it could be easy for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm true, but I can at least get plot points. I could storyboard it. That's what I'll say. I could storyboard a Men in Black season and feel confident in it. What would be that property for you?
So going back to my gamer roots, I was a massive, my top 3 favorite video games of all time. Undisputed number 1 is The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
Yes.
But
Okay.
number two is Halo 2 specifically. And then number 3 is Kingdom Hearts. But Halo, yeah,
yes, dude. Come on, man.
We can chat for hours, I'm sure. Maybe we'll do a part 2, and I'll bring the rest of my.
I will hold you to that.
Cool. So Halo specifically, I feel like is the most movie cinematic of those 3, in terms of live action cinematic, and I've always been such a huge fan of the Halo world, the universe, the backstory of Spartan 117, John. I feel like the Paramount show, which is now since been released and now on Netflix, and it's getting traction again. I thought it had some good things, some highlights. I feel like we're still missing the mark a bit on the Halo universe. So what I want to do, what my dream is, what I'm actually working on developing a fan short of is ODST. So the orbital hell jumpers, the ODST, which are not Spartans, so they don't have the same biological advantages, but they are somewhat engineered to be super soldiers in some aspects. It's nothing compared to the Spartans, and I just find the more human nature of the ODSTs really fascinating. And I feel like when you have too much of the Superman effect, where all of the Spartans are just so overpowered and nothing can really hurt them, with the exception of glassing an entire planet, it feels, I think, a little bit like we're losing stakes. And also emotionally, the Spartans, their emotions are kind of ripped away because they're just built to be these like killing machines. So you kind of lose a little bit of the stakes, I feel like. ODSTs, they still have very much their human nature and their human flaws, and they're emotional, and they hate the Spartans, and there's a rivalry. So I feel like it would be super cool to do my own take on the ODST soldiers.
Okay, I'm gonna blow your mind right now.
Yeah.
I own the Halo games. I have not played them yet. I don't know any spoilers, like plot wise. Like the Master Chief collection was on sale on Steam last Black Friday. I was like, I'm gonna stream this at some point.
Yep. But
I've heard just a little bit of I've heard some of the score, and I'm just like, oh, that score. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm gonna lock in next year, and I'm gonna play through all of them. So I'm really excited to go on that journey, because like my friends I've talked to who have played through them are just like, oh, dude, you don't even understand what you're in store for. And I'm like, okay, that actually has me excited. So, Yeah, but I'm a huge fan of fan film, fan stuff. I think studios should listen to fan. Let me let me backtrack that a little bit. Listen to fans because I just thought about hearing like what some people were saying when Black Panther came out. So let me pull that back a little bit. Listen to fans from a constructive place. That's how I'll frame that.
Totally.
That's a
Speaking of
great
fan
answer.
shorts, me and Trevor Stevens, my director, we did a fan short before we did Rocksteady Row. It was a Fallout fan short. So if you're a fan of the Fallout game, you can also find that on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. And that was a really cool, inventive short film that we did, and really great experience. It turned out awesome. And we honestly, like, when he got pitched as well to potentially direct some of the Fallout series for Amazon. Obviously, he unfortunately didn't get it, didn't get hired. But you watch that Fallout series, and you're like, some of these things look a little similar from our fan short back in the day. But
what are you thinking? What are you thinking about that show, by the way?
I'm loving it. I
Are
honestly,
you?
I love Ella Purnell. I think she's incredible. I love help me out. He's on White Lotus. He's
Walton Goggins. Yeah.
Walton Goggins. Yeah, he
Yeah.
is. I feel like so iconic. I love the Brotherhood the Night Brotherhood character as well. He's kind of a newcomer, but he's on the
same.
Ella Purnell. I think he's fantastic. I think from a casting standpoint, they've really knocked out of the park. I've met a couple of the writers on the show as well. They're nerds
nice.
just like us, and so that's made me feel really confident in the show. And I'm a big Fallout New Vegas fan, so I'm super excited for season 2. I have a couple of comedic sketches as well in the Fallout universe on my TikTok that I did with Chase. So I'm a big fan of the IP, and so far, big fan of the show.
All right, hell yeah, happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Again, Heston, seriously, dude, like I genuinely enjoy talking to you, and again, thank you so much for making the time. We will definitely have you back on, and I cannot wait to see these characters come back. But again, Heston, thank you so much, and hope you have a good rest of your day, man. Thanks again for making the time.
I so appreciate it. You take care.
You as well. Cheers.